Hey, what's going on, guys? So today we're talking about a Fluffal deck profile and regional report. So I took this deck to Garden City Regional. I did not do, actually I would argue that I did do as well as I anticipated. I brought this deck because it was a weird regional to be at, considering it was the last weekend of the old format of Red at 3, Slumber at 3, Emptiness at 1, Maxi at 2, and Imperial Order at 0. So it was a weird... I didn't really want to build anything crazy because I knew that anything, if I built anything zoo related, like if I was going to build zoo, I was going to build Zuju, but I knew that that was going to go down in value after the ban list, which it's already started to do that now. So I decided to build this deck. I already had this deck, so I decided to build it. I built it strictly to go second, which was, you know, a great idea. Every duel that I won in turn 2. Essentially, if it, you know, that's kind of how Frightfurs have always been. You either OTK or you lose. I noticed that DZeef, his channel, his profile, he had more of a going first build. There was actually a moment in the tournament where I thought I was gonna play him because I was sitting at table 52 and he was at 51. I thought it said 51. And I was like walking up to him, I was like, crap, he likes Fluffals. I'm gonna play the mirror. I'm gonna play the Fluffal mirror against the Fluffal master. But I was actually sitting next to him. He was facing some weird Shiranui zombie deck. I had to face Infernoid, Grass Infernoid, which was actually obnoxious. So I lost that. It did not go as well as I anticipated. The deck did do really well, but it just loses super duper hard to D-Barrier. Like, especially the going second version, it's just... I'll get more into that as cards pass by, but to get to the deck profile, 3 copies of Fluffal Dog, searches of Fluffal Airtip Sabers once per turn, 3 copies of Fluffal Penguin. There's absolutely no reason to not run 3 copies of this card. I see a lot of people run 2. Here's the thing with Fluffals, it's like even if you mess up a rarity or mess up like the amount of Fluffals you have in your deck, you could still use them as fusion material because every single Frightfur monster, with the exclusion of Sheep and Kraken, so most of the Frightfur monsters, you can use more than one Fluffal for them, and using more than one Fluffal for them is actually a good thing. That's 1. 2, Penguin has a great effect when it's sent to the graveyard as fusion material, and an even better effect when it hits the field. Like, Penguin's just a super duper great card, and I don't know why people don't run 3 of it. 3 copies of Fluffal Bear to search out Toy Vendor. 3 copies of Fluffal Wings. Now, I'm not running Brilliant Fusion in this because I've never really liked Brilliant Fusion. Because Brilliant Fusion, in my opinion, like, oh yeah, it's great. You get an extra summon. It's a Foolish Burial, and you get a free level 5 monster. All those are super duper good. But Brilliant Fusion decks essentially become Brilliant Fusion or bust, which means you either draw Brilliant Fusion and you win, or you don't draw Brilliant Fusion and you lose. So not running Brilliant Fusion meant I had to run essentially 3 Fluffal Wings to see it as much as possible. But even in this version, I don't think 3 is necessary. I probably would have cut it to 2. I might even throw in Brilliant Fusion in here and just cut this to 1 because it's just not really that great. But like I said when I was talking about Penguin, if you have too many Fluffals in your hand, it's actually not that bad. For the 1-ofs of the Fluffals, 1 Owl, 1 Cat. I really like this ratio. I don't really like either of these 2 cards. They're essentially here until Patchwork comes. Cat can dodge strikes. That's cool. 2 copies of King of the Swamp. I was gonna try to find a super rare, but when I got there, but I just didn't really try. That's what the mixed rarity is. Once again, Fight for Patchwork. Still not here yet. His effect in the graveyard is actually better than his effect to add Poly, because there's so many different ways to get to Poly, especially when Patchwork comes out. But I might still run him. I probably wouldn't run him. Just being honest, for the Edge Imps, I was running 2 Edge Imp Shane and 2 Edge Imp Sabers. Now, I see a lot of people running 3-in-1 or 2-in-1 or 3-in-2. Initially, I was running 3-in-2, but that's just way too many. And then I cut it to 2-in-1. But then I began to see that, like, the best Frightfur monster is Frightfur Tiger. I don't think that's negotiable. Sabertooth is really strong, but Frightfur Tiger is just better. Especially because you usually make Sabertooth with Tiger anyway, and Sabers is used for Tiger, not Chain. And yeah, Chain can add Frightfur card, which is really good. But Chain only makes Sheep, whereas Sabers makes Tiger and Wolf. So Sabers is actually really good. It's good for stalling. It's in my opinion, it's a really good card. It's not a 3 of, but I don't see why it's a 1 of in so many decks. I was running hand traps, 2 Max C, which should be obvious, and two Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. This should have been Effect Veiler. There's not a lot of great cards that get destroyed by Ghost Ogre, whereas there are a lot of great cards like Invoker gets destroyed by Veiler, which I actually didn't face any Invoked. Decatron gets destroyed by Veiler. Norden gets destroyed by Veiler. Norden's in almost every deck, including this one. And Ghost Ogre does nothing to all 3 of those cards. So I think I'm going to get rid of Ghost Ogre for Veiler, simply because I think it's better. But that's actually it for the monsters. On to the spells. 1 Upstart. 3 copies of Galaxy Cyclone. I actually really like this card in this deck. My idea behind this card was first duel. My opponent's not knowing what I'm going to run. So if he has D-Barrier set, I pop it with Galaxy Cyclone. And most people are running Zoo. Most people, or Paleozoics, can only really Xyz summon. So really the only thing he has to worry about is Xyz, or that's what he thinks. So if he has to blind D-Barrier, he's going to call Xyz. That was the reasoning behind Galaxy Cyclone over Twin Twister, because if you activate Twin Twister and you pitch like Edge of Sabers, they're going to know you're running Fluffals, so they're called Fusion. But if you activate Galaxy Cyclone, they'll call something else. And the reason I'm running Galaxy Cyclone over MST and Cosmic Cyclone is because it's good when it's milled off of Toy Vendor, because it has a graveyard effect, and you can actually use it on your own. So you can like banish Frightful Fusion for Frightful Factory to Fusion Summon, use Galaxy Cyclone to pop Frightful Factory, and then add the Frightful Fusion. And you can obviously pop Toy Vendor as well. So Galaxy Cyclone, I'm actually a huge fan of Galaxy Cyclone in Fluffals. 3 copies of Toy Vendor. I'm not explaining that. 2 copies of Frightful Fusion, 1 Frightful Factory. Frightful Factory is absolutely busted. It might actually even be better than Frightful Fusion. This is actually another thing I kind of messed up on. I don't think I should have ran 2 Frightful Fusion. It really clogs because it's only once per turn. And you can search it with Edge of Chain getting sent to the graveyard. So I don't really think you need 2 Frightful Fusion. 3 Poly because it's Poly, and 3 Instant Fusion because it's Instant Fusion. But that's it for the main deck. 40 cards even. As far as the side, I never run 3 of a side deck card, because if it's a 3 of in your side deck, then it's probably good enough to be in your main deck. That's kind of my reasoning behind it. Like, side deck cards really clog at 3. That's what I've noticed. So 2 Sticky String Kaiju, 2 Lancia, 2 Enemy Controller for the Invoked matchup that I never saw. Because the Frightfurs don't really have an out to other than just making their monsters beefy as crap to Crystal Wing, and any good Invoked player is not going to let you get to a monster that's beefy as crap, like Summon Sabretooth, Target Tiger, negate with Crystal Wing. So like my plan was to like summon Dog, activate Enemy Controller, or like summon a card off Toy Vendor, or summon Edge of Sabers, activate Enemy Controller, tribute it, take their Crystal Wing. That was the reasoning behind that card. 2 Trap Eater, because a lot of people side in or have Anti-Spell in their side deck for Metafoe. And Anti-Spell works just as good against my deck. So that's what I was afraid of. I also sided this in against Cleave Demise, which I faced. 1 Vanity's Emptiness, because it's a great card. 2 System Down. In my opinion, Frightfurs are better than ABCs and Cosmos and like Clees and any other deck that you have to worry about that System Down destroys. But because it's a board wipe, and because ABCs and Cosmos are so good at floating, you want to run System Down so they don't float, essentially. The 2 most side-in cards, Flying Sea and Dark Hole, because these were for Zodiacs. They were superstars of the day. They both did really good. I just wish I did as good as they did. Or did as well as they did. And that's it for the side deck, 15-card side deck. And then the extra deck, 2 Sabretooth. This is a perfect amount. You don't really ever want to make 3 in a duel. That's excessive. 1 Frightful Kraken, busted. These 2 together are busted. This is such a great card. It's kind of a tight. It's not really actually that tight of an extra deck, so I might run a second Kraken. But you really don't ever need to. in a duel. You do need 2 Fright for Tiger. Like I said, this is the best Fright for Fusion monster in my opinion. Pops a bunch of cards. Pops those battle traps, those pesky battle traps. And you can dodge it using Cat and Penguin. You can dodge Strike using Cat or Penguin with it. And then 1 Sheep, you only really need 1, and then 1 Wolf. I don't even think you really need 1 Wolf. I made them like twice, because my matchups were like, my matchups were Zoo, Pure Zoo, Red Eyes, Infernoids, Satellar of Demise, the guy dropped that I was supposed to face, Pure Zoo, no, Blue Eyes. I faced Blue Eyes at one point. Pure Zoo, Cleese, and then Pure Zoo again. Hopefully that was 9. And I only made this card against the stupid, and like I always make this card against like the really like bad deck. Like in testing, I faced like testing at locals, I faced like Melodious and Magician Girl. I made Wolf then. Like it's not a good card against the meta, but it's a good card against like degenerate decks that are just bad. 1 copy of Elder Entity Norden, just for random XZs, and I'm running 1 copy of Bahamut Shark in Totally Awesome because it's so good. I made this a lot. I probably made these 2 the 3rd most of the XZs. I made him the 2nd most of the XZs because my reason behind this is against Zoo. You summon out Penguin, and they debarrier call Fusion. You use Penguin's effect, summon out Dog, get a search, and then you make Giant Hand. Now Zoo's field usually is Trident, Invoker, Emerald. All those monsters have less than 2,000 attack, and Trident can't really pop Giant Hand because he'll just negate it. So it's not the greatest. I was running it in here in case I didn't OTK and I wanted a defensive line, but it actually ended up being an MVP. But the real MVP, Utopia and the Lightning, they were pretty cool. I made Abyss Dweller once against Metafoe, a Zoo Metafoe, which was the last one. The last one wasn't Pure Zoo, the last one was Zoo Metafoe. And I made Castell once, and he got Ghost Ogred. So that was it. I had a great time, I will say that. But as long as D-Barrier stays at 3, this deck will continue to not be very good. But if D-Barrier gets banned, this deck might become the best deck of the format, because I'm not really... Because every single time I was playing, I was like... Every single time I would have a hand, I was like, if they don't have D-Barrier, I win. That happened every single match. That literally happened every single match. So... I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like the deck profile, hit the like, hit that subscribe. If you have any other questions about ratios, I try to explain them. I try to make this as quick as possible, even though it's a 12-minute video. But most of all, have a great day.
I've got some issues that nobody can see, and all of these emotions are pouring out of me. I bring them to the life in you. It's only